Attention everybody, the views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and supported ministries and or nonprofits. Here he is.
That was so subdued. Hey guys, you know, I thought there's some big, hey, the one, the only, Johnny Rooster! And no, man, it's like, okay.
He's feeling cocky. It's Johnny
yeah, there you
Rooster.
go. Ladies, welcome to Johnny Rooster Morning Mouth. The little jingle in the background, I personally wrote it and plucked it out on the banjo.
Did a good job.
Actually, it said banjo on the keyboard. It was supposed to sound like a banjo. Still sounds a lot like a keyboard.
It does.
It really does. A keyboard is never a banjo.
It is not ever.
It's definitely a very good duplicator of the bells. When you put it on the bells, dwing, 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 it sounds just like the bells. Other than that, it's really struggling to sound like a guitar or some other instrument that we normally hear. So today it's talking about a nurse practitioner's experience in the real world and how a nurse practitioner can help you. So today, class, we're going to learn about what's the difference between an RN, a registered nurse, and a nurse practitioner. You call it an NP?
Yes.
See, there's always the abbreviation.
Yes.
I didn't know, but I figured that's the way it went.
Yes.
There's the difference between an RN, a nurse, and a nurse practitioner, and an MD, a doctor, and then how that nurse practitioner can specifically help you. So the lady in the white lab coat is the nurse practitioner, and her name is Tiffany. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Kirk, sorry.
And the lady next to her is Tony. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tony Lorenz.
Now, Tony's quick to say she's not a nurse practitioner, and I'm really quick to say I'm not. My medical advice would not be what you would want. Let's go ahead and jump into something that people talk about. COVID is a bunch of, I think it's a bunch of hooey-wooey stuff going on in the culture with that. To me, I feel like I'm being manipulated for a bigger system, and it looks sinister. So I have that mind. Other people, respectfully, have the opinion that we're taking the right precautions and we need to do everything to slow this virus. I think we should get it out of our system and move on. What is your take? No wrong answer.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think that drawing it out is not the way to go. And, you know, and to be honest with you, when you're talking about the, you know, is it hooey or is it versus sinister? And I think that it's neither. You know, whenever my patients come to the clinic, I work really hard to make sure and explain to them that this virus can cause some severe issues in some people, but not everybody. And I work really hard to make sure that we're treating the symptoms and treating these patients early and keeping them out of the hospital and helping them get back to recovery instead of telling them, go home, wait at home. There's nothing we can do for you. Go to the ER if you can't breathe. So
does quarantine, is it effective?
You know, obviously,
I love putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
aren't you glad you didn't get a good education, Tony? I love this show. Go ahead.
Obviously, quarantine does help in regards to, you know, if you're sick, you stay home. Where that, you know, do I think that this quarantine maybe is a little bit overboard? Yes, in some regards, especially in the school system. You know, where that one kid is positive and then we quarantine 40 other kids for that. The studies are showing really that very little positive outcomes are coming out of that. And it's really just disrupting the kids' lives. And most kids are not testing positive from exposure to that one kid who was positive. But yes, I mean, obviously, if you're sick, you stay home and you're not out spreading it around other people. However, I will say that one of the most common things that we see is that people are getting it from their family. So if you quarantine from the general public, then that's one thing. But whenever that you go home and you still go to your family reunion and you don't feel good, then that really defeats the purpose.
Sure. Okay. Well, good answer. Today we're talking to Tiffany Kirk, a nurse practitioner. We're going out live on YouTube and Facebook and internet TV and internet radio. So we have those formats. We're looking to expand to another market in Daily Motion, which goes from Paris, France. Those are stable platforms. There's some changes in some platforms here in America, and we are still advocates of freedom of speech. Now, I say all that boldly and ready. I've been on this program about 1 year, and I started doing Friday shows. Now I'm doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. What I want to do on this program is to let the readers, I write books too, let the audience know. The audience is the listeners, the viewers. I want them to know that people from different walks of life will be on this show and will hear things that they don't normally get to hear. So let's go into something that wouldn't sound like somebody's infomercial, but something that you can really do to help these people understand, appeal to them, and then maybe with that information they can share that with their friends. Before I do that, Tiffany, I want to ask Tony, what are you wanting to do today? Because I want you in on something. I don't want you just to sit there. What do you hope to contribute? Because we want to hear from you.
Well, I'm front desk and organizer of Tiffany, but in a rural health clinic, and one thing I think that sets us apart from a lot of other clinics is we do keep 2 same-day appointments every day that we don't schedule ahead of time. That's there for that. And we get a lot of same-day appointments where that's hard to get in to other clinics, that when you call up and say, I need to get in today. And I think that's the nature of rural health clinics such as ours, is that we're there when you're sick. You're not going to have to wait a week or 2 weeks
so
to get into
OCH
someone.
is not a hospital.
We have a hospital in Gravette, Arkansas. There was a hospital in Springfield. However, it shut down within the last 10 years.
So it's a specialty clinic? How do you define it?
So our clinic is called a rural health clinic.
Rural health clinic.
Which is what generally most of the OCH clinics are rural health. So it
And OCH stands for?
Ozarks Community Hospital.
Very straightforward. I want to always put a U in there for ouch.
Yes.
You know how I think, right?
Yes.
Ouch clinic. That
Yes,
makes
no
sense.
ouches at our clinic.
Ah.
Yes.
So Ozarks Community Hospital.
Yes.
Even though it's not specifically a regular hospital, it's a rural clinic.
Yes, the clinic or the hospital in Gravette is a fully functioning hospital.
Okay.
Although it is a smaller rural hospital, they still have a fully functioning hospital there. But yes, kind of the focus with OCH has kind of been more out in the rural health areas, providing care for communities that maybe have a harder time getting access to larger areas where the healthcare really is more.
So that was the intent of the rural health clinic anyway, to reach
Correct.
the more remote communities?
Yes.
Now you're in Marshfield. Mm-hmm. So that's not real remote, but it's not Springfield.
Correct. And, you'd actually be surprised because we have a large number of our patients that really cannot get to Springfield, whether that's that they're elderly and they don't have transportation, whether that's individuals that, are kind of like single moms, families, whether that's just individuals who don't drive in general due to health problems. We actually do some home visits as well. And so we actually go out into the individual's home and see them there because that, I want to make sure that they still get care. And I don't want transportation ever to be the issue as to why they can't get that care.
So you guys ever watch those old TV shows where the house calls, the doctor shows up in a medical bag and he gets it out and he's listening to all grandma's there and everybody's watching? Well,
Yes.
so you make some house calls yourself?
Yes. Yeah. Especially during COVID times, we went out to patients' homes that, just need a little reassurance, and also needed that frequent monitoring, that making sure that we are on top of those symptoms instead of waiting until that they get really bad and end up having to, go to the hospital. So.
Now, do you know anybody that needed your assistance but didn't have access to you?
Well, yes. I mean,
Because people don't have access to doctors. So I'm going to be honest.
Correct. And
so are you hard to find too?
No, actually I'm not. Actually, I'll tell you that I have a personal Facebook page. I'm friends with many of my patients so they can get access to me.
Unlike a medical doctor.
Yeah, correct.
Hi, doctors.
No, I
got nothing in this game. I don't need to worry about what doctors think of me, but if they like me, that's great. If they don't, they'll at least remember me.
Yeah, true.
But I do want you to know that doctors are hard to reach.
They are.
And we already know that, but you are saying you're more accessible.
Correct. And I don't necessarily know that as a nurse practitioner that I'm more, because I'm a nurse practitioner, I'm more accessible, or just in general, that's the kind of provider that I want to be, is the one that patients know that they can get a hold of me at any time. I want them to feel confident that they're being taken care of and they're not just a number, but they're actually somebody that I'm thinking about. And whenever that they're sick, I want them to come to me and I want to help them feel better. I think that there are people that maybe didn't have access to me just because in regards that we're a very small rural health clinic. We're competing with two larger hospital systems in our area. And so we're not the first name that comes to people's minds. I think when people come to the clinic and they have an experience with us, they generally like the experience and want to come back. But again, whenever that we're not the first name, people don't know about us, don't know that there is someone who will come to them, stuff like that.
So what is the primary difference? And now pay attention, class. This is where we get the education side. There's three things I want to know. What's the difference between the RN, the nurse practitioner, and the medical doctor? What are the primary differences that everybody should know? So
the RN is basically following the orders that the doctor or the nurse practitioner is telling them to do. So there's not a lot of autonomy in regards to that.
You do what we tell you to do.
Yes.
Okay, so they're following that protocol.
Yes. As a nurse practitioner, so we train a different model. We train more of a holistic model than a medical model that is more kind of aimed at the disease process and the illness. But we know how to diagnose. We are treating. We're writing medicines. We're writing orders. Basically in the state of Missouri, I think that I joke around and I say the only thing they won't let me do is order diabetic shoes on my own. So
so you can order and prescribe.
Correct.
So why would somebody go to a doctor versus a nurse practitioner? What are the differences there?
So not all nurse practitioners have their controlled prescribing authority, which is some different medications, controlled medications. I have that authority, but not all nurse practitioners do. So sometimes that's an issue.
You ain't going to get your narcotics from her.
Yeah, don't advertise that.
Yeah, let's just not go there, okay? Stop.
But no, sometimes people, I think there's a large misconception still that, that a nurse practitioner they're not going to get as good quality of care. And I don't think that's the case.
I want to erase that stigma
Correct.
Here, right now. Nip it in the bud.
Yeah. I mean, there's great nurse practitioners, there's great doctors. And, I think that it is not about, that you're going to get substandard care.
Would there be a cost difference between going to a doctor, or is it an accessibility difference for the patient? What is the difference?
In our clinic, there is an accessibility difference because that our doctors that work out of that clinic, they are only in the office limited days, whereas that I'm there every day, Monday through Friday, and so that can be a difference there. The doctors also generally have kind of more patient load, whereas that I can kind of spend more time with my patients because that I'm not working on that model of that I've got to see 50 patients a day or whatever.
Oh. So are you looking for more, or do you have looking for less, or does that matter on how many patients you have? I obviously want to see more patients just because that's what we want to do is we want to grow as a clinic. However, I don't start my day off thinking I've got to get 20 patients in. My goal is I've got to take care of the patients. Okay.
So whether that is 10 patients, whether that's 25 patients, it doesn't matter. As long as I've taken care of everybody, then that's what my goal is.
I grew up going to church. I still do, and I do remotely now. But I think it's interesting because I thought the church was focused on numbers a lot. They want to get more people, but do they want to serve those people so that they will talk to their friends and find out a benefit? So do you have a reference type of atmosphere where people like they can refer you, or do they just kind of say, "This I found a nurse practitioner, and it's my secret"?
No, I hope they don't do that. One of the reasons why that I wanted to go into rural health especially is because I grew up in a small town, and the whole small town provider feel where that you go into the office and this is the same provider that's treating you, the same provider that's treating your grandma, the same provider that's treating your brothers, your sisters, so that way you really feel connected to your patients. And so I hope they're telling their family. I hope they're telling their friends. I appreciate when people share me on Facebook, or when people are looking for recommendations that they're putting my name or putting the clinic's name as well.
Okay, so we're going to be in a scenario. We're going to be we're at a coffee shop. So I'm ordering the latte, and I'm some kind of a stuffed shirt kind of guy, and you're just an average person. Tony, you're a real world person. You care about people, and I'm going to ask you. So your name's Tiffany. What do you do? What would you answer?
I would say I'm a nurse practitioner, and I probably should elaborate.
See, that's what I'm doing. I'm giving you a lot of room.
Yeah, no.
I'm going to sip my latte.
I'm a nurse practitioner in a rural health clinic, and if you have any healthcare needs, I could take care of them.
That's pretty basic.
Yes.
So that doesn't tell me exactly what you do. That's why I, as a customer, I'm just being real transparent now. I am not clear on why I would choose a nurse practitioner over a doctor, and that's why I'm mixed up.
Yeah.
So I'm still stuck on that. And I understand what you're saying, but the way you describe it doesn't give me anything that I want. So I'm wanting to help you.
Yeah.
Your message is very important. I believe when you came in here, I believe that what you do has more significance than what a doctor can do. You can reach more than a doctor because you have a specific you can touch the customer. You can reach them in a different way. The doctor seems like they have this wall between them and the patient knows that. And the only people that love their doctor are 90-year-old women. They love their doctor, and they'll do anything. The doctor says, take 16 of these most expensive pills, and they'll do it.
Yeah.
Now I'm showing my cynical side. I have a problem with a medical profession that profits off old ladies. I want to know who you are and why you're not that person. So I've already got my hang-ups. So yeah.
No,
help me.
So really nursing is trained on a holistic method. And so I know that that's kind of some foreign language, but the holistic approach is I'm looking at your spiritual needs. I'm looking at your physical needs. I'm looking at your emotional needs and how that all relates to your health problem. When you come in and you tell me that you're tired, I don't automatically go to what are your labs. I go to what are you doing? What's your life like? What's your stress level like? Just yesterday, I spent 40 minutes in a room with a patient who had just experienced a tragic loss, and just sat there and held her and let her cry on me, hugging her because that I want her to know that I care about her. I feel pain with her. I want her to get through this and to be happy and healthy and safe.
That's perfect, and that's what we need to hear more of. And I want Tony to talk about who is Tiffany behind the scenes. She's probably a real monster,
Well,
I'm going to just go and say she's not this friendly face.
She's not really a monster, but let me just say we have a lot of fun behind the scenes, and Tiffany is someone who lives life to the fullest. And when she says that she cares about her patients, she's not joking. And I'll just tell this on her, but I think this is out of our clinic as a general. We are a small clinic. That there's been multiple times when she's learned about a need of a patient or their family, and she's either taken care of that herself or has reached down and made contacts to see that whatever that need is, whether it's food or whatever situation it is, that's taken care of. And I think that, makes a difference. there, and just that she's involved with them. You know, I hear that from the patients at the front desk that I really like her because she listens to me. You know, I've never had anyone just listen to me before. But she is definitely behind the scenes. She keeps us on our toes. She's fun. I might say that she sings a lot.
Would you like to bust out one now?
Well, you know,
Or do you have a go-to song?
you know, I do love Disney.
Oh, good. So do you have a Frozen thing, or what do you like to burst out into?
Not Frozen, but you know, like a little Under the Sea.
Yes, under the sea.
Life
like-
could be better down where it's wetter. Yeah.
That's the Jamaican side of you.
Yes.
I like that. Now, did Tiffany hire you?
She did not. I was hired by our clinic manager. I was actually there before Tiffany came. So
If Tiffany left, how would your life be different?
well,
It would be so much better.
I started to say she's probably saying it'd be easier.
Relief.
so much less
Does
stressful.
she
No.
give you your workload, or do you have other sources that you have to work with?
Well, we have two other doctors that work part-time out of the clinic, and a psychologist that also works out of our clinic. So all the paperwork and everything that goes with that also funnels through me. But Tiffany is maybe, I'm not going to say she's an atypical provider, but she doesn't sit back and wait for someone else. If the phone lines are lit up and I can't get it, she's just as apt to answer the phone herself. You know, she's self-sufficient, so she does. I do tease her about piling work on me and keeping track of her personal life, but that's just a joke because we're friends as well. But she's a great provider to work for.
It sounds like you have a good relationship. And the doctors, are they in there as often, or are they? You said there's a limited schedule.
They are limited. We have Tiffany's collaborating physician is primarily long-term care facility nursing homes. So he spends his week seeing patients there. So he's only in 2 days a week, sees a handful of patients, reviews things with her, signs anything that needs to be signed by him. We've recently added another provider from one of our other clinics that's there 1 day a week. And so they're just in and out. Our psychologist has a private practice next door, but also works out of our clinic too. So Tiffany is our mainstay, but we have
Every
other-
day.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that I do have respect for doctors. A lot of them have a workload that's different, and they have other obligations. So the bigger commitment, then the more they are likely to be under fire from the public, like from people like myself. So I want to preface that and say medical doctors have a specific role.
Yes, they do.
But the nurse practitioner seems like you have filled a day-to-day role for the patients.
Yes. You know, the nurse practitioner role was really to fill the gaps in care and to provide care and access to people in rural areas. You know, and that frees up the doctor to be able to, like I said, see patients in long-term care, to give them quality of care as well, and not just a number because they're at the end of the day funneling through. You know, we do telehealth visits as well, and so that, you know, frees up patients that were coming to the clinic that might have seen the doctor as well, but helping really to be an extension of their care.
So a registered nurse works under a doctor's orders. A nurse practitioner has some flexibility.
Correct. Ultimately, you know, I'm under the doctor's license, and Dr. Birkendine and Dr. Boyd are my collaborators, and they review my charts. If there's something that I'm really stumped on, I'm discussing it with them. However, my patients are my patients, and you know, I'm not calling the doctor every patient that I see and say, I think they have an ear infection. What would you want me to prescribe for them? You know, those are all my decisions that I'm making, and really. That autonomy that you didn't have as an RN is there for the nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioner, what kind of training do you have to have?
So a master's degree is the minimum for a nurse practitioner. There are some nurse practitioners who have a doctorate degree in nursing, but a master's is what I have.
Now, would you have another aspiration beyond that, or is this where people want to be? with their career? Is that usually where people go if they want to do that? Or do RNs ever want to transition to a nurse practitioner, or is that a different kind of person?
Well, you have to be an RN to be a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
So I started out on that road that I want to be a bedside RN.
Okay.
And then transitioned to becoming a nurse practitioner as I kind of seen. I worked in neurotrauma ICU as a bedside nurse, and I seen a lot of individuals who I felt like that were there for preventative reasons. And I thought if I can be on the front lines and I can help them control their cholesterol, help them get better control of their blood pressure, maybe they won't be here with a stroke. That's really kind of what propelled me on that trajectory to be a nurse practitioner. Are some people fine with being a bedside nurse? That's great. That's their niche. They're wonderful at that. Not everyone is cut out for the same cloth. And so I think that there is value in every medical professional. And there are some things that as an RN that I'm not as strong in as a nurse practitioner. There are things in each role that we all bring to the table.
Did you become a nurse practitioner because the RN bedside wasn't what you wanted to do? Is that what you, as you said, was that another idea that you had later?
Yeah. It wasn't, I wanted to be in that role where I could be more proactive versus reactive.
Now, another one from the peanut gallery. I've got another call coming in. Hang on. Okay, this just in. I just popped in my head. Uh-huh. Nurse practitioner versus PA, physician's assistant. Mm-hmm. What's the difference? Pay attention, class.
So the training is different. The PA is a physician's assistant. You do not have to be a nurse to go that track. You can have any bachelor's degree and to go in, and they are trained more kind of the medical model than the nursing holistic model. And I don't necessarily feel like that the nursing holistic model versus the medical model is neither one are substandard. Whenever I say that, neither one are lacking. It's a different approach. Like I said that before, the nursing model, that holistic is, we're looking at all of the different aspects of your care instead of looking at what is the disease you have and looking backward, how is it affecting your body.
How is a physician's assistant, PA, different from an RN?
Again, they're still able
some more training and more ability to prescribe. Is that the same thing? But there are more on that non-holistic side.
Correct. I think that there's a lot of value in working as a bedside nurse before you become a nurse practitioner, because that you understand that role as well. If you're not coming from that role, it's kind of hard to understand what it's like for that patient in the hospital. It's hard for them to understand what it's like in that basic day-to-day care of people that have different conditions.
Okay, so do the doctors work with both PAs and NPs?
Yes, yeah.
All the time? Or does it just depend on the situation? Like, do hospital doctors ever connect with NP?
Yeah, the hospitals utilize NPs in surgery. They utilize them in specialty. They utilize them on the floor. Are
they assigned to an NP, or are you assigned to the MD? Yeah,
I'm assigned to a doctor, the physician collaborator.
Okay.
And in the state of Missouri, there is a number that you can only have this many NPs underneath you, or this many PAs, or mid-levels is what the technical term is.
Do you work with PAs? Or does it not necessarily cross?
No, we just don't have any PAs with our office. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, we work with PAs. Again, I think that there is a role that there is value in each one of those positions, and I don't ever want anyone to think that nurse practitioners are better than PAs or better than this. I think we all bring something valuable to the table. There's good PAs, there's good nurse practitioners, there's good doctors, just as there's the other part of that.
Okay, so. Now my son's in the military, so if we had the general and then the colonel and they have rank.
Yes.
Is there a rank in the medical field?
Yeah, so the MD is obviously the top,
okay.
And under that is what we call the mid-levels, and that a mid-level is a PA, a nurse practitioner, midwives, things like that.
So you're kind of on the same plane, but a different aspect.
Correct.
Then the RN, and then the LPN, and then the...
Yes, all the way down.
Yeah.
Medical
on.
assistant, yes.
My kid's mom is an LPN working for an RN. So a lot of people are doing that. They get their family, then they realize they want to do more with the medical.
Yes.
A lot of work.
Right.
A lot of training. Wow. I feel like we were on a medical marathon there for a while. Stretch break. Everybody take one. So when you have a day-to-day, is the medical clinic, OCH, what does it offer patients that a hospital, what's the difference if they're looking at the two? Would they be able to choose your clinic?
Yeah. We see all kinds of different...
Or are you selective?
Well, no. So our OCH's goal was to serve the individuals that maybe fall through the cracks or that maybe have been turned away by other providers. I feel like that OCH is very generous and forgiving. There's been offices that I've been to personally, you're 5 minutes late and they say, too bad, sorry. Yeah.
Tardy bell.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're going to try what we can if that we can allow that to fit you in, because you obviously have a need. We're going to, just like Tony mentioned earlier, we have the same day appointments. And, I think that that's one thing we hear a lot is that my other provider couldn't get me in for 6 weeks. If you have a cold today, you don't need to wait 6 weeks because it's already going to be gone. Or if you're having something going on today, in 6 weeks, that's not when we need to treat it. We need to treat it now. So I think that OCH is great about providing that. I think that's something different that we do. One thing also we do at our clinic is we schedule for 30-minute appointments. And when's the last time that you went to your doctor and you thought, I got 30 minutes here with this patient, with this provider? Generally.
Why do doctors' offices have waiting rooms knowing that people have to wait? Can't they schedule better? Is that not an easy fix? This is the biggest problem in the world. So here we go. And thank you.
Let me
Tony.
answer that. So one reason is because we have multiple providers on some days. So, just getting them back. But sometimes patients need to have labs drawn.
Okay.
Or they're running a point of care and in-house lab test and waiting. So that shuffling around, that 30 minutes sometimes leads to them being there 45 minutes or an hour if we're doing diagnostic tests in-house on them, or they're getting immunizations. And so waiting rooms are important just to make people comfortable. But we because
they make me decidedly uncomfortable.
Yes, they do.
She's saying that just to make people comfortable. I'm like, well, I've never been that comfortable in a waiting room.
I get
Give
that.
her some grief.
I get that, and
it's your turn, Tony. Sit in that hot seat.
No, trust me, because they're staring at me in that hot seat.
I'm the public, and I'm pestering you. I'm getting tired of waiting.
But I get that, and Tiffany will tell you that occasionally I'm coming and checking, going, did I miss someone leaving? Can we?
It's like when you're in the grocery store line, you don't realize the person in front of you suddenly had a problem and they couldn't resolve it right away, and they call the manager. You hate to be the next one behind that person.
Right. And, and I try to let them know, because sometimes we have to call an ambulance on someone, and that's got all of our medical staff tied up until the ambulance takes them away. And so, we try to explain, obviously, when they see the paramedics come in with a stretcher, they get something's going on.
They get that, yeah.
But, I try to let them know that, we had something come up.
You can't just show up at this time and expect to be in that at that time.
Right.
Because of those factors.
And the other part of that, too, is that life happens. And, you may be on the schedule for a medication refill.
Yeah.
But, major life event happened that morning. There's other things that take priority. And I want to make sure that my patient, that I'm treating every aspect of their care, and if they come in and they're distraught about something, what does it matter about that medication refill? Really, their primary thing I need to treat is what happened that morning, if it's something that's affecting their care or their emotional status or something like that. So, and again, if somebody comes in, they're having some mental health issues, I'm not going to cut them off in 10 minutes and say, sorry, I got somebody else waiting in the waiting room. You know, and I always try to stress to my patients that if I'm running late, I say, you know, I apologize that I'm running late. I hope you know that if that you needed to take longer time, I would definitely provide that longer time for you as well.
I like that. And maybe we need to understand as the public is to be more patient in the waiting room because of those factors, but also know that you're there. I think most people get that. They understand that they're in there to be seen, but when they're seen may vary according to what's going on. Yeah. I'm a very healthy person, thank goodness. I'm very grateful for that. And I haven't been through a lot of medical procedures. Some other family members have been in there more, so I've been waiting with them impatiently because I feel great and I'm tired of waiting. So that's more of where I'm coming from. Some people just have that personality. They're fidgety. They don't like this atmosphere, and they know that other people are sick, and they're annoyed by that. And so that annoyance builds up, and that anxiety builds up, and it's been going on. Here's the ER experience. Valentine's Day, years ago, my toddler fell and hit his head. We took about 2 hours of waiting because there's other emergencies, and I should have just said, don't worry about it. But his mom was in the medical field and wanted to do the right thing, and we just kind of ruined our Valentine's Day just going home afterwards, not seeing anybody. And so that's the way our takeaway was, hey, it didn't feel good. Is there a way to shelter from that? That was the hospital experience. Is there a better experience to go to a clinic, but they're not open except during business hours, right?
Correct. And that's really one of the downfalls of the clinic. And that's why I try to tell my patients that I'm accessible other ways as well. So we have an on-call line, and the office you call the office, you're redirected to a number. That number then calls me directly, and I call the patient back. Oh. So, I mean, there's been multiple times where a patient calls, they maybe took double medication, or maybe that they, a situation where that their kid, something happened to their kid, and they're just needing that reassurance. What do I do? Do I go to the ER and wait all night long, or do I wait till in the morning? And so really reaching out to on-call, because most clinics will have an on-call, but reaching out to an on-call, or of course, if that it's a situation where that it's going to be an ER, to go to an urgent care. Yeah. Urgent care generally takes a little bit less than the ER, okay. And so it's kind of a lesser priority of emergency events per se, but I think that being accessible helps to cut that down.
So does insurance play a role in these options? Like if you have a certain kind of insurance where you not easy to get into the ER versus the urgent care versus the clinic, or
I don't think that.
Yeah, you think they're all okay.
So I think nowadays it's pretty much across the board. Wherever you go. Now, obviously, if you're what we call a frequent flyer, at the ER or something, okay. your insurance company might kind of start looking at that and saying that it was not necessary. But we also try
hypochondriac.
Yes. And we
say
try
all this stuff.
We try to educate our patients too, I think, on the phone when they're saying, well, maybe we'll just go to the ER. Is it really an emergent
because that
situation?
Crowds the real emergencies.
Well, I have a brother who's an ER nurse and has been for years. So, is it really an emergency, or, can it wait 3 hours, till this afternoon?
There's people that like to call 911.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So, that's an abuse of resources, but it's an impatience maybe in our society. It's a lack of education on what the ER really is supposed to be. So, we try to keep them, I think, out of the ER.
Folks, I've been talking to Tiffany Kirk. She's in the Whites. She is a nurse practitioner at OCH Medical, Wellpoint Family Medical in Marshfield, Missouri. Yes. So if you're in that area and you'd like to get some specific contact with somebody in the know, that's a good way to go. We talked to Tony, and she's the office manager. The person in charge. The person.
I am not the office
front.
manager.
No.
Our office manager is going to watch us and
okay,
say,
so she's not the office manager. You're an assistant.
Yes. Okay.
Helping them out.
Yes, I'm a gopher. I'm
Receptionist.
I'm
You
the
were available to
receptionist.
come over here
I'm the
today.
receptionist secretary. So, and I will just say, I think one more thing is that we see from birth to death is what
Yes.
what we say.
Okay.
So that sets us
There's not
apart.
an age limit
You
on
can
it.
bring your whole family,
Okay.
preferably not at one time,
Yeah,
but you
just-
could bring your whole
So
family.
you treat infants, you
Yes,
treat
yes.
elderly, anybody in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you do mental disorders?
Yes, and that's not my specialty. There are psych nurse practitioners that's their specialty. However, as part of the family nurse practitioner training, you train in the whole aspect, and so we definitely want to provide care, especially in rural areas where maybe psych resources are limited. So.
Well, I appreciate you both being here today, being on Johnny Rooster Morning Mouth, and we're going to have, we always want to highlight things in the public that people need to know and hear about. So we understood, if you look at this video, it's the difference between the RN, the nurse practitioner, the doctor, and the physician's assistant. You go back and watch it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you Friday again on the Morning Mouth with Johnny Rooster. Thanks again, ladies, for being here.
Thank you.